Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV.
Five-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
I'm not perfect. I've made bad mistakes. I've had horrible things happen in my life, but I just share them. I'm transparent with it, and I think that connects with people. My particular cancer, which was prostate cancer, like as a guy, that's like even more like, because like that hits you or hurts, literally, quite literally, in a sense. It's like, people don't want to talk about it. Men don't want to talk about it. So as a result, it gets underreported and underdiagnosed, and is one of the leading causes of cancer that could be definitely stopped.
Welcome, everyone, to the Follow Brand Podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, and I'm so elated. You just don't understand how elated I am, because in my world, in my brand, I merge healthcare and technology. That's my convergence, in the force, right? My convergence in the force is healthcare and technology. And I get to talk to one of those convergent people. And we're talking about Ed Marx. Ed Marx is an icon in my book. When I come across him, when I see him, he's part of the HIMSS organization. He's written several different books that are very impactful, and I really like his journey and how he puts all that into a story form that a lot of us can appreciate. So I'd like to welcome Ed Marx to Follow Brand Podcast. You like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, Grant, thank you for having me. I feel super honored, really. I mean, you're one of the great leaders out there yourself, and very creative in your approach, which I love and admire. So I'm super stoked to be with you.
Well, the last time we came across each other, it was in Orlando. We were at the HIMSS conference, and you had just done several interviews. You were part of that conference, and then you were boarding a plane going to Southeast Asia. So that's that's where we're going to start this conversation. Why do you feel that your story, as it is now, is such in demand that you are a in-demand speaker and consultant?
Yeah, I mean, I try to figure that out as well. It's super humbling. I think one of the reasons is just being an authentic person, like being real. Like, I'm not perfect. I've made bad mistakes. I've had horrible things happen in my life, but I just share them. I'm transparent with it. And I think that connects with people because a lot of times they're like, whoa, look at that person. They put them up on a pedestal and they're like afraid. And then that person tends to maybe be a little bit plastic, and they really stick to a script. And I'm like, man, I'm just like everyone else. I have the same struggles, and I just share them freely. And I think that's one of the reasons. So there's a little bit of authenticity. And because I've had some challenges in my life, health and otherwise, and I share them, I think people just can connect. And that's what creates that magic, I guess. And yeah, I've been fortunate to be asked to speak literally all over the world. I think this year, in the first quarter, I'd already achieved, the top status for American Airlines. I had 250,000 miles, I think. It's so much fun, though. I love sharing the stories because I think it helps spur everyone on. Like, if Ed can do it, anyone can do it. So let's get after it and make digital transformation really happen.
Well, let's start with your story. I love the personal brand, right? I like that personal brand perspective. And you shared some of that I've seen. I've heard some of your story, how you got into the healthcare realm, how you got into leadership. Because you didn't start the traditional way. You're like, yeah, I got these great credentials, I got this great education, and I just come out of the box, and I'm just in leadership, and that's the end of the story. Well, it didn't really happen like that. Kind of talk to us about your journey to get into leadership.
Yeah, I think some of it, as I tried to break it down as well and think about how did I get to where I am and how maybe there's some principles I could share with other people. I grew up in Germany, and I came over to the United States when I was around 10 years old. And people made fun of me because I dressed differently and I spoke a little bit differently. We wore lederhosen. Like, if you know the Sound of Music story, you've seen how those people dress. That's how we dressed in the United States because my parents didn't know any better. So kids made fun of us. And then I had acne and all that kind of stuff, as a junior high and stuff. And people made fun of me, and I was bullied and all that kind of stuff. But there was something inside of me that's like, I knew I was called to do something greater and I could overcome all that. But I always felt like I was kind of the underdog. So, like, whether it was sports where I had to prove myself and then make the team, all kind of stuff. And it was the same in the Army. Then I'm in the Army, and it's the same thing. That they almost kicked me out. And then but I make it, and I resolve in my head, someday I'm going to become an officer. And so I did. And like, when I was being bullied on these teams and stuff, I became, one of the playmakers. And then in my career, it's kind of went the same way, Grant, early on. It's like, people are like, oh, you can't do that. That's for, these other people. And I just kept at it, kept at it, tried to do stuff, tried to make a mark. And then I did. And then I was given these roles and positions. And so I think part of it is just like, I was like almost like the underdog, and it's like getting beat up. I don't talk about that too much, but, kind of getting beat up in junior high and high school, and then beat up figuratively in the workplace. And it just gave this resolve inside of me, being born of Holocaust surviving parents. It just kind of made this resolve. I'm going to fight back in a good way, and I'm going to prove myself, and I'm going to do some great things if I'm given the opportunity to be part of great teams. And so that's sort of how it all evolved and how I got into leadership. I mean, the ultimate, Grant, and I'll just tell this story super quick, but this is what it takes sometimes. I had finally gotten to a place, I think, in my health tech career, although I'd only been in it for a couple of years. This would have been in my very early 30s. And there was this opening for a CIO role, but they were interviewing people that probably looked like you and I today, right? A little bit older, distinguished people with a few years of experience. And here I was, this kid, 31 years old. But I went to the CEO's office, knocked on the door, and I just said, you could stop your search, because they were bringing in, people like us. And he's like, what? And I said, I'm the person. And he would later, he gave me the role, and he would later say, if anyone had I can't use the words that he used, but the resolve to ask, he had to give him a chance. So sometimes, yeah, it's all that preparation, it's all that, resilience, it's all that passion and desire and vision. But sometimes also you got to make that bold move. And that was my bold move.
Man. And being able to go for it, like you got nothing to lose. Sometimes it takes focus and commitment and sheer will. And I borrowed that, from the John Wick's movies, I think it was. Yeah. But that's what it was, because he's very determined. Like, how can this guy do what he does? And here you are, 31 years old, haven't had a senior position. You had the moxie to go into that office and say, look, I can get this done. And he believed you. I mean, anybody can just walk in there like, but obviously you had a track record like, I'm going to give this guy an opportunity because he's shown me what he's going to be able to do. And even if he doesn't have the experience today, he will go out and get the experience. He'll go out and get what's necessary to fill those gaps. And then you had a very storied career, right, as a CIO for a very large organization that kind of just, set the tone for where you're at now. How has that helped? Now, when you got the beginning job, and then you were now that seasoned vet, as you look at that journey, what were some of the pivotal moments that you felt really helped you become a seasoned CIO?
Yeah, so one is diversity of experience. So I didn't try to just be one type. Like I sort of grew up as a physician relations person in strategy. And I had some good experience. I had some clinical experience as well, right? As an anesthesia tech. This goes way back, a combat medic, anesthesia tech. My first kind of jobs in healthcare, non-clinical, were strategy, physician relations. And then I saw the power of technology. So that was the first pivotal moment when, and I won't go into the story, Grant, because it takes a little bit of time, but it was the birth of my first daughter. And I was working with the IT department. I was in strategy and physician relations, so I knew about their product. And so when my daughter was born floppy without life, and they were trying to resuscitate her, and then she had all sorts of complications, I knew the only hope for her was technology. And so working with IT, and again, a long story, her life was not only saved, but she overcame 4 major life challenges, health challenges, and then she graduated at age 18, went from college. So she's perfectly normal and serves in healthcare today. But it was at that moment I realized, oh, wait, okay, all this preparation, all this diversity of experiences is leading me to bring together the convergence, your word, of tech and healthcare to save people's lives. So that was like the first big thing. And certainly along the way, there's been other markers, going into the CEO's office, just asking for the role. I mean, that took a lot for me to do it, but then that took me to another level in terms of my own confidence and leadership ability. And then I'll save these stories for later in case we get there. But then I myself, ran into 2 life-threatening diseases, and those, after each one of those also propelled me in another direction. And then the last thing I'd say, Grant, when I talk about the diversity of experiences, I was also very intentional to have some academic, so I get the research and the education. I wanted some for-profit. I wanted some not-for-profit. I wanted some, what do we call them, like faith-based. So if you look at my tenure as a CIO in 4 different organizations, they're all different. And I think that just made me a better leader because I had all these different experiences.
Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, is turning heads in the healthcare and information technology sectors with his groundbreaking approach to personal branding and business development. By challenging conventional strategies, he's setting a new standard for how executives present themselves and their businesses to the world. McGaw's expertise isn't just about standing out. It's about strategic guidance, generating leads, and building networks that propel executives beyond their competition. His focus on authenticity allows leaders to leverage their unique stories, driving exponential growth and success in their industries. Beyond branding, McGaw is a fervent advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. He's committed to helping organizations cultivate environments where innovation and collaboration thrive through inclusive cultures. And for those eager to dive deeper, McGaw hosts the Follow the Brand podcast. Here, he unpacks the intricacies of personal branding and business growth, offering valuable insights for professionals eager to redefine their identities and share their narratives with the world.
Pernell Londono. I am an AI strategist. I've been a technologist for 30 years, and now I'm with Dell Technologies as an AI strategist. So happy to be here. Everybody's worrying about the practical application of anything specifically, let's say cloud. And then in the background, there is this need about understanding what is responsible, what is ethical, what is fair.
Well, let's unpack that just a little bit, because as now you are consultant, you have Marx Advisory Consultancy Agency, right?
Yeah.
You bring a depth of experience so that another CIO somewhere out in healthcare world said, you know what, we need to bring Ed Marx in, because here's our challenge. It's always nice to have someone who's kind of been to the top of the hill, kind of come where you are and give you a roadmap or some advice, or take a look at what you're planning. Talk to us just a little bit about your particular how it's different. You've worked with several different consulting agencies, but now you're doing your own thing. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I learned a lot. So after I was a CIO for, I think it's 20 years, if I add them, all the 4 organizations together, I learned so much. I thought, one thing that's missing is really good vendor partnerships with the provider side. So I went to the vendor side to learn. I had a great experience serving at Tech Mahindra and Divergent. And then after that, I became a board member of a couple of health systems. So I had this perspective of a board, of a CXO for a vendor, definitely a CIO and provider side, a little bit of clinician stuff. I also did some clinical things at Cleveland Clinic. And I'm married to a clinician. So I had a little bit of the clinical side. And I was like, I think I'm just going to go independent, create my own thing, and try to better connect that CIO experience or CDO with vendors and partners and try to make it for a better marketplace. And so that's sort of how it happened. And I've been doing it for, thankfully, I've been successful for the last 13, 14 months since I started. It's been super. So yeah, I'm working with select leaders of healthcare systems, as well as a select number of vendors to help them, better integrate in the marketplace and, create this digital transformation that we all long for.
Well, I know my vendor community, because I come from that side of the ball, information technology, 20, 25 years. They're going to want me to ask this question. because it's so important. And I want you to put on your CIO hat. If you had to talk to the vendor community and their approach to the provider community and how they structure things and how they do things, whether right or wrong, what kind of advice would you give to them?
So I think there's a couple things. One is personalization is really key. So don't treat me like you treat everyone else. Don't think of me as a commodity, as another number, as another email to send, but think of me, my organization, as something unique and know something about me. So know something about me personally, but also my organization. So often vendors might come in and say, what's the vision and mission of the organization? Well, if you were good in your role, you should know that already because you've been on the website, you've seen the commercials, you've looked on YouTube or wherever, and you've gotten all that information. So you can demonstrate that you know all that and jump into the more meatier questions. So that's what I mean by personalization. And then also know something about me. A lot of people, right, when they rise up, there's some ego involved. I don't care what people say. Everyone has an ego. And I'm not talking about manipulation here. It's got to come from the heart. But if you know something about that person, that shows something. Like if you come in and say, "Oh, Ed, I noticed that you really like to do these adventure races, and I've been doing a couple. What's your favorite? What would you recommend?" Then at least I know that you've listened, you've done some research, and then of course it feels good, right? People want to be able to talk about themselves. So I think that's really important. The second thing, and again, it kind of goes back to personalization, but in the structure of the deal, put some skin in the game. And I know that's heretic to some, but I think it's really important. I think it shows a lot. It's a differentiator. So when you put some skin in the game, meaning, hey, because vendors will say things like, I'm going to make up this example, we'll increase your revenue by 10x. Okay. What's the skin in the game? So the skin in the game would be, look, here's our roles and responsibilities, and we achieve 10x, everyone's happy. If we achieve 11x, then we should get an additional percent bonus or whatever. But if we get less than what we told you, then we're going to have skin in the game and we're going to not charge you as much. That shows a whole nother level of commitment. And it can be done. I've structured deals like that myself. And that's how I got, as a CIO, that's how I got the CFO and others on my side to approve a deal, because, this firm, again, I won't mention names, came in. I said, hey, let's put some skin in the game. And the CFO said, yeah, that's worth the risk, that they're willing to do that. So that's a technique that's not used very often. And here's just the third one. And again, it comes to a little bit of personalization, is show that you really, again, it's got to come from the heart, that you really care, that what's your intent? And there's different ways of showing that. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse, although that's always nice, if that's a member of your particular team, but it doesn't have to be that way. But you need to be able to show some level of empathy, that you understand this is patient care, that there's individuals that, depending on what you're selling or the service, that their life may depend on that. And so show some sort of understanding that you're not just selling, like, I'm going to give you an example. Let's just take cybersecurity. So one of my companies I work with is a cybersecurity firm. And so what I've taught with them is like, yeah, you sell cyber into multiple industries, and for a lot of them, it's pretty black and white. But this is healthcare. And we've made implicit promise to our patients from a CIO perspective that we're going to not only give them the best quality care, but we're going to treat their data with ultimate confidentiality. So you, as a vendor coming in for cybersecurity, you better understand that and be able to articulate that same statement. It's like, yeah, of course, got these bells and whistles. And we know that at the end of this is patient information, the most sensitive information that people have. And we're going to do everything in our power. That's what drives us. That sort of thinking, Grant. And there's ways. I'm sorry if I go long, but I want to be practical.
No, keep going.
There's ways to get this. And I'm telling you, the response, again, it cannot be manipulation. So that's sometimes I'm hesitant to share these things, because I don't want anyone to do it out of because I was trying to manipulate a situation, but I want it to come from the heart. But this way that I'm going to suggest also can help develop that heart. And that is volunteer. Volunteer. I say this for CIOs and people who work as providers, but as a vendor, volunteer. Go to your local hospital and say, look, I've got 1 hour a week. I'll bring my kid with me. So don't tell me you can't do it because of family. I took my kids with me, and it was a great experience for our kids. So volunteer 1 hour a week and just see patients. And then when you talk now to the prospect, you're talking to the CIO, you can say, I get it. I understand it. It's not much, but I do spend an hour a week, and I stand with, I walk around on the floor where they do outpatient chemo, and I talk to the patients and I talk to the clinicians, and I get it. And it's changed me, and I'm passionate about this. And that's a game changer, Grant. So those are three like broad areas. Went really specific into the last one because I think it kind of covers the first two as well.
I'm a technology strategist, and what that means is I sit with businesses, I try to understand where they want to go, how they want to get there, and figure out how we use technology to get the business there. So my role is actually very simple. It sounds complicated, but it's very simple. I really believe that you have to find your purpose in technology. And no matter what you do, and this could be true for every function, technology, accounting, or whatever have you, right? You have to find your purpose. And that can be hard today in technology because there's so many different things you can do. There's software delivery, cybersecurity, there's virtual reality, there's IoT. I mean, the options are endless.
No, those are sage advice for anyone, especially if you're working in the healthcare field. That's your bag. In that vertical, I work with healthcare, so you need to understand what's happening in health, especially at a hospital. This is an acute care hospital. It's life and death.
Yeah.
So you're not just talking about money and widgets. It's life and death. And if you can be a game changer in those outcomes, that's big. And being able to show that is even huge. And I love how you said skin in the game. We're in this together because some point in time, every one of us, and probably over 90% of us have been born in the hospital, and maybe 90% of us will actually find our last days in the hospital. This is very, very important. I want to ask you this. This is important. It's a little personal, but it's important. At the time that you got diagnosed with cancer, and you were operating, I think, as a CIO at the time, and you got this news, I want you to talk to, because there's someone else out there in our world right now who just got this type of news, and they might have been a high-functioning individual in their particular endeavor, and then they just got this show-stopping news. What would you say to that person?
Well, first I would say, man, that's tough. And I'm sorry that that's happened to you. And here are some things that were helpful to me that may be helpful to you. And I'm happy to walk in this journey with you. That's what I would say. And that's what I say when I do find out for people. In my particular cancer, which was prostate cancer, like as a guy, that's like even more like, because like that hits you where it hurts, literally, quite literally. In a sense, it's like, people don't want to talk about it. Men don't want to talk about it. And so as a result, it gets underreported and underdiagnosed, and is one of the leading causes of cancer that could be definitely stopped. So I did go pretty public with it, but that's what I would say is, I'm sorry that it's happened to you. thankfully there's people out there that can help you and walk through this with you. And here are some things that you can do. We actually wrote a book about this to be super precise, like exactly what your next steps might be. But that's the first thing I would say is I'm sorry, and hug the person and love on the person first and foremost.
And that's so important. Empathy, as you stated earlier, you can't take the cancer away, but you can begin to help someone. Uh, First of all, accept their experience they're about to go through, and
Yeah.
then understand that the journey is not over, and you can begin to move forward. You also do a lot talking about you're like an Ironman out there,
Yeah.
right? You do like you ride a great bike, you run. Does that help you to reduce stress? I mean, what's your motivation?
Yeah, it's physical, mental, spiritual, I think all wrapped in one. One is we have to, especially as executives, I think everyone, for sure, the science says everyone, but I think especially as executives, we have tough jobs, super stressful, and you've got to find a healthy outlet for you to deal with that. So it doesn't have to be, it could be walking, it could be yoga. For me, it happened to be triathlon and multi-sport. So whatever it is, it's great physically. There's so much science behind this. It's really important to be as fit as you can because it impacts the mental acuity as well. And so it gives you me time to think. When you're out there on a bike slugging away, in an Ironman, it's 112 miles. You get a lot of time to think. Or worse is the swimming pool. Right, it's a 2.4 mile swim. So when you're doing all your laps practicing in a swimming pool, man, it's mind-boggling. And so you get a lot of time to think. And then for me, it was also a spiritual thing. So get a lot of prayer time done, a lot of meditation and things like that. So that's what it helps me do is like stay physically fit, mentally sharp, and spiritually strong. So that's why I sort of went down that track of multi-sport. There's more to that story, but that's what I've been doing. Grant, I hope I answered that question.
No, you answered it perfectly because it's so important for all of us to understand that we've got to release stress, number one,
Yeah.
and you've got to exercise because then the more you know your body, you'll know if your body starts to need help, whether it's prostate cancer or some other ailment that is taking place, and understanding again the healthcare realm, and then understand how you can do to enable it to be done better. I love the fact that we've got all these new devices now. I talked to a nurse just the other day talking about, when you jump in your car, right? You jump in your car, you start it, and you get all these dials, all this monitor to tell you the health of the vehicle before you take off, right? And anything happens, a red light's going to come on. Well, what are you doing in your body? Are you walking around with a Fitbit? If you have any kind of device, is there any kind of monitoring? Are you monitoring yourself on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, not waiting to where you've got to go to an acute care facility or something to that effect? But we have those capabilities now, and we didn't before.
Yeah, and Grant, I think again that this sort of line of thinking sometimes gets me in a little trouble with some of my peers, but I think if you're a leader in tech, you need to be using these things because your patients are using them or will be or need to, or your clinicians. So why not experiment yourself? And that's another thing, doing all this stuff sort of forces me to do it. Forces me to learn about what can my watch do, what capabilities, what sort of health capabilities are on the different apps on my phone, and how can I integrate that into the electronic health record. It just gets you to think all these things. Hey, and one last thing, you were asking sort of the reason Ironman, stuff like that. One of the things that's so gratifying is I would do a lot of sporting events, and thankfully the health systems that I served at, and including where I'm on the board now, on my Team USA uniform, you're allowed to have one sort of sponsor logo. And so I have a healthcare system, it'd be like Cleveland Clinic in the past. And I've heard announcers say, and we had some local races too in the Dallas-Fort Worth area when it was a Texas Health, and we had a bunch of teams, and we'd go out there and we'd do really well. And they'd say, those people are walking the talk. And so that always made me proud. Like, we're Texas Health, and we're here in a big race in Dallas-Fort Worth. And, we're showing the community that we walk the talk, that we believe in all this stuff. But anyways, there's so many good reasons to get out there and be active in any way. Again, it could be dancing or walking or whatever.
I'm going to switch gears right quick. I want you to put on your consultant hat. And I want you to talk to me as if I am a CIO of a major hospital system. I just got the position. Maybe I've been in the position maybe 6 months. I've inherited a lot of technical debt, a lot of legacy systems. The last CIO, last administration tried to uh, implement some digital front door, some kind of initiatives, but it really wasn't the right rollout. Didn't work as well as could be expected. We did not get the returns that were promised. And now I'm in a situation where I'm starting this endeavor, and this new thing is out. We got AI all over the place, and everyone's asking me, how are we going to use AI now? Artificial intelligence and the delivery of care. And it's such a new technology. I don't even know how am I going to implement this into my stack that I have. I've got limited budget. I'm kind of like, where do I go from here? And I want to talk to Ed Marx and pick his brain.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. Yeah, you paint that scenario, which, as you know, is everyday scenario, and it's like, oh man, I'd like to go back in. I do mentor a couple CIOs, and so they're going through this exact same thing that you talk about. Yeah. So, Grant, my answer may surprise you a little bit. I would look at a few different things, and you can do some of these at the same time. Some might have to come after one another, but you need to give yourself a decent runway of let's just say 6 months. Although in the first 30 days, I would look for that quick marquee win. All right. So these are in no particular order, but I have like 7 or 8 answers for you. That key marquee win that says, that's the new person. Wow. I'm going to get behind them and support them. Look what they did after 30 years of this crap. They fixed it. There's always something you can find. So for me, I'll just give you real examples. I show up at the Cleveland Clinic and there's email size mailbox limits, right? I think those still exist today. They certainly did 4 years ago. And it's like crazy. And it bothered, think of the academic medical center. People are sending slides around everywhere. And so what happens if they're told their mailbox is full? They get frustrated. They hate IT. They can't do their job, all that kind of stuff. And worse, they will set up their own server somewhere or go to some website where they can drop their files, which is not secure. So it's a terrible policy. So I asked my team, I said, what is it going to cost us to have unlimited mailbox? It's hardly anything, right? As storage these days, hardly anything. Certainly not going to cost us a cybersecurity incident, which the current state would. And all the calls to the service desk, my mailbox is stuck. My mailbox is stuck. So in one day, we released that, and oh my gosh, you would have thought that, we had averted world hunger or something like that. So make that marquee statement. You'll find something, even if it bothered a few people inside IT, but nobody else. So that's one thing. One thing is the next thing is develop relationships. Again, these are no particular order, but you got to develop relationships. So spend a lot of time. If the place is on fire, it's been on fire for a while. So another 30 days, it's okay. So spend your time developing relationships. So get out there. Don't make anyone come to you. That's another thing they noticed about me, was like, wow, this is the first person who ever came to my office. I got a lot of that kind of statements because they usually expected to go up to the corporate, to the 11th floor or wherever. So go to where people are and spend time with them and just be like you and I, like just real people, just talking naturally. And then, of course, is governance. Make sure you have great governance that's streamlined. I've been all over the place in my career, and it was right answer at the right time, where it was super formal and all these processes. But at the clinic, I finally got to the point that it was just the C-suite. It was just us at the C-suite, because ultimately they were going to say no to whatever came through that big process, or yes. So I was like, cut all that stuff out. So whatever works in your culture, make sure it's good. And that's where you kind of handle all the AI things as well, as you have this governance structure to help you with that. And then of course, you're buying a little bit of time to develop your strategy. It's amazing to me, Grant, how few organizations have a written strategy. So when I say, how many of you have a digital strategy? Everyone will raise their hand, 9 out of 10 people. But when I say, can you show me? All the hands come down, because they don't have it. Or if they had it, they did it 3 years ago and never updated it. So you have to have a strategy in order to get to where you want to go. And then the final things are really operational. But I'm telling you, Grant, my success is predicated on all these different things. And that is make sure that you're agile. So stop with the old style structure and become agile, and make sure that you're operating with best practices. You know, sometimes it's one best practice around the globe is called ITSM. It's just the best way to operate. And then also there's a financial counterpart, like how do you best operate IT? And then the final thing, and if I had to stack the importance, you know, this one would be right at the top, is make sure you have the right team. So I've made so many, some of my biggest mistakes were just accepting the team, because I wanted to make a statement. Oh, I'm coming in, but I'm just going to take whatever team was there. Well, there's probably a reason that they went to the outside to find you. And that's because they didn't think anyone on the team was the right fit. It doesn't mean negative about everyone on the team, but I think it sends a signal. So for you to think that you can take that team that currently exists and not make a change and think that you're a great leader as a result, that's been a mistake I've made a couple of times. And I should have made some changes, which I ended up making later, but they were very painful to do later. So be bold and make sure you got the right team around you, because your success is predicated upon your team.
Exciting time to be in digital marketing with the advent, the explosion of generative AI chatbots. They're better known as ChatGPT. There's Bard, there's Claude, there's all kinds of this new one came out called Gemini. There's so many different tools that really what it comes down to is that it's made my business more precise. I can do things more quicker, I would say, and to elevate my brand messaging to a level that allows me to be as creative as possible. Digital market economy is taking the world by storm, probably over the last decade or so, but is really escalating now in the advent of AI, because it is a game changer for a lot of businesses. It's not just all the big boys that can play in this space because of cloud computing, because of mobile computing, and now you have these tools at your disposal. You've got a laptop, you've got a computer, you can now digitize yourself to a level and get your message out there, and that equates to business.
Best benefit is, at the end of the day, it's people helping people.
Events like today are so critical to getting out there, meeting other executives from competing healthcare systems, but today under one roof, we all get along.
I found everything really interesting. I loved the AI technology that's coming, all the integrations and the changes that are coming for the future state.
Whole experience overall, it's just outstanding. Every year it just gets better and better.
It was amazing. I learned so much from all the sessions. I had so much fun. It was awesome.
I'm
so happy to be here. I'm looking forward to engaging conversation and looking forward to learning more about healthcare IT and what's on the horizon.
It's a great conference. Everybody that works at South Florida HIMSS makes an incredible event. Probably the best regional event that I go to.
It feels like a family.
I tend to operate more in the vein of what are we doing as an enterprise, as an organization around our goals and our strategy, taking that first, and then looking more broadly across that stack to say, okay, where do we have gaps in the technologies that exist today? But more importantly, where do we have gaps in what we seek to achieve where technology is not going to be as efficient or as adequate as is necessary to meet those targets? So passionate about this space. And again, you know, I've had the great fortune to have had some wonderful mentors and leaders in my time that I've learned so very much from. And I really seek to do the same and to give that back. I love mentoring and seeing people grow. Building those high performing teams is where I really find my greatest value and contribution.
Man, great advice, great consultation. Appreciate that. I'm sure my audience appreciates that. You're going to be coming down here to South Florida and speaking to the South Florida HIMSS chapter, and I applaud you for that. I want you to just take a little bit of time here. Talk to us about the HIMSS family, what HIMSS is about for you, and why that you would then, you know what, I believe in this, like you said, walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
Not just talk the talk. You're going to come to South Florida and address our particular group, and we're not going to take any thunder away because I know you're going to bring some brand new content for us, and we're not going to get into that. But I would like you to talk about your HIMSS experience.
Yeah, South Florida HIMSS chapter, one of the best in the country. You guys always win all sorts of awards, and I know a lot of the team down there and amazing people. I can't wait. Yeah, HIMSS has been super important to me, Grant, in my career because I started out in healthcare tech and I was clueless. I ended up as a director. Again, it's a long story I won't go into, but I suddenly showed up in healthcare IT as a director level, and I was I was as clueless as they come. Thankfully, my boss, I reported to the CIO, he took me with him to this was the Colorado chapter of HIMSS, up to Denver from where we were. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was just I learned so much that day. And I was like, how do I get involved with this? Because like I said, I was clueless. So I learned that they had sort of a developmental track, right? To become a member of HIMSS, and then a fellow. And in order to achieve each of these, and now there's a lot more, right? There's the digital certification, all that kind of stuff. But back then it was just really 2 levels. In order to achieve each of those levels, you had to do stuff like participate in your local chapter. You had to speak, you had to write, you had to like get things done. It wasn't just like perfunctory. So that's what I did. I was like, man, on my goal sheet, I was like, I want to become a senior. So a couple of years later, I became a senior. I was really involved with the chapter. I think at that point I had moved to Nashville, got involved with the chapter there, became the chapter president, just loved it. From there, I went to Ohio, the Northeast Ohio chapter HIMSS, also a great chapter, and became the president there and got my fellow. So I became a fellow, and it just kept developing me. All that exposure, the annual conferences, the chapter conferences, all that exposure just helped my career skyrocket. And so I made it a requirement for all my direct reports to be involved. So they had to get their senior, they had to get their fellow in HIMSS. It was just part of their natural growth. And so I've been a big, huge believer for many, many years.
Well, that is wonderful. And I thank you for that. We're going to conclude here, but before I let you go, I always like to give my guest the mic. And if there's anything that we have not covered that you feel is important, that you're like, I need to let people know about this, whether you got a new book coming out, you got this going on, or just some other thought or idea that you like to get out to us, what would you like to leave us with?
Yeah, I do have a book coming out and all that kind of stuff, but though people find out from it from other sources. I think just get in touch with your heart and why you're in healthcare. So maybe you had a heart for healthcare, but over time, things get busy and it became rather, just routine. And so you sort of lost that passion, like, dang, what I'm doing, whether I'm on the vendor side, whether I'm a clinician, whether I'm in IT, what I'm doing is helping at some point down that chain is helping a patient. And just get retouched with that heart. And if it's already there, help others get retouched. And again, Grant, there's multiple ways of doing this. I loved volunteering. I volunteered for many, many years. So I'd always see patients. I'd always see clinicians. I do other things where I bring patients to all my meetings. Patients were part of our governance structure. There's all sorts of things to do that you can do to make sure your heart is always where it needs to be, because stuff happens, right? We get beat up a little bit in the workplace. Sometimes we get beat up a little bit in life and our heart can become hardened and calloused. So we have to make sure and be intentional to always make sure that we remove that stuff and try to keep it pure and our intent pure. And then that's when transformation happens. So that's what's on my mind.
I love that, man. The heart heals. The heart heals. And we definitely need that in our world. And people understand, I always tell them all the time, technology doesn't solve all the problems. It's an enablement. But that human to human interaction is a blessing for a lot of people as they're at their most vulnerable, usually in a healthcare setting. And before I let you go, let us know how to first get in touch with you, how we could take advantage of the services that you now offer. I think that would be very important.
Yeah. If anyone's interested, LinkedIn's probably the best place. I've got other, I'm on everything. I'm on TikTok now, Instagram, YouTube channels, all sorts of stuff. But probably the easiest thing for the audience is just if you are interested, LinkedIn, you can always connect with me there, and then you'll have exposure to all my different channels.
And tell us your services exactly, like get bullet point, like this is what you get when you engage with you for market advisory.
Yeah, especially on the vendor side. It's really about making better connections in the marketplace and learning how to become a partner. So, Grant, I don't want to bore the audience, but if there's 3 or 4 things that I've been helping vendors specifically with, but I also help some CIOs, is how to approach, and we talked about that earlier in the conversation, how to approach the C-suite. Another thing is looking at their strategy and looking at their sales material. A lot of it is so bad, like coming in with 30, 40 slides. I've got my clients to come in with 1 slide or no slides, ideally. And then, so that's part of it. And then just helping them with events where they would struggle in the past, for a wide variety of reasons. No one wants to hear a sales pitch or anything like that. So I'm like, look, there's a better way of doing that where it doesn't need to be like that. And it's something that people want to be part of. So I've created that sort of community as well. So those are some of the different things. But where every client's different, and I try to personalize everything that I do. And what I think my tagline, I tell a lot of them is like, look, I'll make my service so personal that you'll think I'm part of your team.
I'm so glad you said that. I mean, really from the heart. I've been telling a lot of sales and marketing people like this for a long time, like death by PowerPoint, or you just come in and you just show up and throw up. I'm like, that is so dead. You've got to have a conversation with people and understand where they're coming from, just like what a doctor does. Before they diagnose, or give you a solution for your problem, they diagnose, they understand, like, what are you going through? and where are you at? And then everyone has a different way of consuming information or communication. What do you need from me for you to understand how to get to where you want to go?
Yeah.
Is so important. And to your point, even earlier, a lot of the information now is available on the internet. I can search and look you up and find out probably 90% of what your product does already.
Yeah.
So your job at that point is to now demonstrate to me that you can actually do it. In my circumstance, right? Then I think we can make some adjustments there from the sales and marketing community. This has been wonderful, and I invite your entire community to continue to follow me on Follow Brand at 5-Star BDM. That is the number 5. That's star. That's BDM. B for brand. D for developmentinformasters.com. And I will take you up on that. And I'll be on your show coming soon.
Yeah. We're going to definitely have Ed Talks with Grant. So I'm looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that myself. Hey, enjoy yourself. Take care.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Man, who's your favorite podcaster? Man, Grant, man. I love Grant's podcast. Well, who's Grant? I'm going to send you the link. I love Grant.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaw, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-Star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaw explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
Hello, leaders and visionaries. Are we ready to exceed our ambitious goals for 2024? At 5-Star BDM, we're your strategic partners, not just futurists. To the trailblazers in business development, healthcare, and IT, you need a path to realize your vision for growth. Our tailored consulting services are your stepping stones to success. We empower you to build brands, deliver results, and captivate audiences. In healthcare and IT, innovation is progress. At 5-Star BDM, we ensure your operations beat with precision, efficiency, and care. Join those who shape the future. Connect with us today. Let's set the stage for a defining quarter. With 5-Star BDM, it's not just business development, it's a beacon of excellence.
Ready to elevate your brand and make a lasting impact? Dive into the world of the Follow Brand where insights meet action. Shop now at our e-commerce store for exclusive merchandise that speaks to you. Transform, engage, and soar with 5-Star BDM. Your journey to brand brilliance begins today. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you.